Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe.
Hello and welcome to Fantasy Booking Warfare. This month's topic is Brock Lesnar finally losing his Universal Championship. You can go and watch Luke's pitch for this by clicking the video links in the video description below. But right now, this is my pitch. Of course, vote in the eye above my head once you've watched both to decide which one you think should win, and we'll amalgamate all the votes at the end to decide the true winner. But now, on to my pitch! Okay, so there's a few things that I have to change about reality before we go into this. And this is a SmackDown guy wins Money in the Bank, just to get the briefcase out the way. Otherwise, it will be a red herring that isn't needed. It's a loose thread that just isn't worth having. Seth Rollins is still the Intercontinental Champion, and so my story starts at SummerSlam. And also before SummerSlam, Brock Lesnar has turned up at the July UFC 226 show, challenging the winner of the heavyweight title match for a match later in the year. And he does so in the octagon, wearing his Universal title belt on his shoulder. So everyone thinks Brock Lesnar is leaving again. You've got that set up, and it's the way it's going. It's Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. We can't avoid that, but don't worry, we're getting it out the way quick. So, SummerSlam. It is Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar in the main event. And again, everyone goes into this thinking, well, Lesnar's leaving. He's definitely going to UFC. He can't juggle both at the same time. He is dropping the Universal title here. But, just like Brock Lesnar's return match against Cena, this is a one-sided domination again from Brock, even more so than the Mania match. And it's the main event of the show, so this is closing out SummerSlam, remember. Reigns hardly gets anything, and Lesnar is just throwing him around, putting him through the announcer's table, everything, and the announcers start to play it up like Brock is going in it for himself here. Obviously alluding to it without, kind of exposing that wrestling's predetermined and that, a real thing's actually happening. There is a way around that. So in the end, Lesnar wins by choking Roman out. So Roman's just passed out now, but Brock continues to throw these hard elbows onto Reigns, just like he did at the close of SummerSlam 2016 against Randy Orton, which was also played up like a shoot, also intended to make you feel, is that real? Was that actually meant to happen? Was that planned? And you get loads of referees and agents and lots of different people trying to pull Brock off in these closing moments. And they do, but he knocks a few down and he throws a few occasional strikes at people. And it's not made a big deal of. But Vince McMahon and Shane McMahon are down there in all the chaos. So they're never announced or alluded to, but they're there, and it just adds that element of realism. But also you notice in this big melee is Seth Rollins, and he gets in what seems to be a proper fight with Brock. Not a wrestling fight, but a proper scruffy, raw fight of maybe one of them gets busted open in the mouth, stuff like that. And everyone is legit trying to pull these two apart, because this is now the new focus. Yeah, and you just play off Seth's kayfabe friendship with Roman there. And Lesnar storms off after this little scuffle, screaming, I am effing done with this company. Off mic, and only the camera picks it up. And again, it's trying to get that realism there for people to go, was that? I mean, I'm pretty sure it was planned, but was it? And that's the tone. So the next night on Raw, Raw's kind of confused based on what happened the previous night. Brock's still the Universal Champion. Roman Reigns is no longer features in our story. I don't care what happens to him. Take him off telly, reboot him in 2019. And Seth gets on the mic eventually and starts shouting about how it is a damn shame that the Universal Championship no longer matters. Because that just isn't a new belt. That's a belt with a lineage that goes back just decades. And every single person who's held that title, Brock is disrespecting. He's an insult to everyone in this ring who's ever stepped foot in this ring, everyone in the back and all the fans. The longest title reign of the modern era, and he's only defending it 12 times. Where's your rematch, Finn Balor? Where's yours, Kevin Owens? Finn Balor sacrificed 9 months of the prime of his career just to hold that title. And And you, Brock, you're just treating it like an easy paycheck. So he says the Universal Champion has been held hostage and Seth is going to burn it down. He's going to burn down the beast. But until then, when Brock finally shows up and Seth can kick his ass, the Intercontinental title is the top belt in WWE, not just Raw, in all of WWE. The man makes the belt, and I am the man, and this is the belt. And if anyone has a problem with that, come down here so I can stomp your face into the ground. Later that night, Kurt says he agrees with everything that Seth has said, and the men and women who put their bodies on the line every single night will have a tournament to crown a new number one contender who will face Brock at Hell in a Cell. Now, this tournament, Seth beats Baron Corbin in the first week. That's just to get a bit of Seth Corbin dissension going, which is just like a sort of background storyline. Then Chad Gable and Seth Rollins meet in the second week. They have a really good 30-minute match, but Corbin distracts the referee unbeknownst to Gable, and that gives Gable the win. So Gable has accidentally won without meaning to, so Gable advances to the tournament. And Gable's like, hey man, let's do the match again. And Seth says, no, you do this. So Gable's still kind of a babyface. But all through this tournament, it's building up that Kurt can't get through to Brock Lesnar or Paul Heyman to sort of confirm this Hell in a Cell match. And Raw might not have a main event at the pay-per-view. But Seth Rollins will be defending his Intercontinental title against Baron Corbin at Hell in a Cell. It's just, don't really need to pay attention to that, though. So Chad Gable wins the tournament. He is facing Brock Lesnar as the Raw main event at Hell in a Cell. Everyone's super behind him, super underdog, really likeable guy. And Chad's just been doing these vignettes where he's really training. He's gotten himself into super shape. This is the biggest opportunity of his career. And at the start of the pay-per-view, though, Kurt reveals that Brock is still not here, and they make plans for the SmackDown Hell in a Cell match to headline the pay-per-view, just in case Brock doesn't turn up and people leave disappointed. And then, near the end of the night, Chad Gable comes out, and he's waiting, and he's geared up, but he kind of knows what's going to happen. Kurt Angle walks out with no music, and he just mouths at the top of the ramp, I'm sorry, man. He hasn't showed up. This was Gable's big chance. He's been training so hard for Lesnar. But despite having wrestled already in that night against Baron Corbin and won, Rollins comes out and says, these people want to see Chad Gable wrestle for a title. We went 30 minutes on Raw a couple of weeks ago and we blew the roof off the place. How about you say let's do it again? So of course, everyone's into this. Gable's earned it. And they have another 30-minute match, which is hopefully very good. And the storyline there is that Seth has already wrestled, so he is really in danger of losing the belt. And Gable is completely fresh and super conditioned for this big fight he thought he was going to have. But Seth just wins in the end. But Gable's done enough to really put himself over in defeat. Now, on Raw after Hell in a Cell, Seth cuts a promo still about how that proves that the Intercontinental title belt is the top championship on Raw, because that was Raw's main event at the pay-per-view, because Brock Lesnar didn't show. And he's going to prove it week in, week out. The open challenges are back in effect, and I'm also challenging Brock Lesnar for a champion versus champion match at TLC. Winner takes all. So the winner would be the Intercontinental Champion and the Universal Champion. But then 3 weeks out from TLC, Seth's open challenge is answered by a returning Jason Jordan, Seth's former tag team partner. He's been gone that long. This was what Creative had for him. And the two have a long match, which Seth has won in the finishing sequence with a blackout. But Heyman appears on the apron the first time since SummerSlam, and he's distracting the referee while Seth gets the visual pin. And then as Seth stands up and he's screaming at Heyman, Heyman's like sort of like got hold of the referee now, like pay attention to me. Brock Lesnar has run through the crowd, gets in the ring and hits Rollins in the back of the head with, crucially, the Universal title. That's what it's all about. It's a metaphor as well as a prop, and Brock puts Jordan's arm, Jordan's knocked out from the blackout, puts Jordan's arm over Seth. The referee counts 1, 2, 3. We've got a new Intercontinental Champion, Jason Jordan. What does that mean for TLC? It was meant to be Rollins versus Lesnar. So Raw, 2 weeks out, the following week after that, Jordan, still playing up that really good heel character he had from before he got injured, claims to be really sorry. But I didn't do anything wrong. I was cheated as much as Seth was. I had no agency in this. And Gable's like, yeah, a similar thing happened to me when I fought Rollins in the tournament. But I gave him the chance to do it again. You should give him the chance to either fight for you again or just give him the title back. You won it through nefarious means. You know that. You're recognizing that. And Jordan's like, no, but I need to take on Brock Lesnar. I need to be the guy to beat Lesnar and save Raw. Really playing up that like a heel who thinks he's a valiant babyface, but actually he's a coward. And that spins off into a Gable-Jordan feud later down the line. Meanwhile, Seth is enraged. That Intercontinental title belt meant everything to him. That was the top belt on Raw to him. And Baron Corbin says something smarmy backstage, and Seth flips and beats up Corbin. And Baron's like, I suspend you indefinitely. So Seth's out the picture. Now we're at TLC. It's Jason Jordan versus Brock Lesnar, because that was the title match that was booked. And Lesnar's like, easy paycheck, I'm turning up for this one. So Lesnar mostly dominates Jordan. And that's not just because of Jordan not being as big as Brock. It's also because Jordan has just approached this through inexperience and cockiness and arrogance, and that's what's left him out of his depth. A character flaw, not an ability flaw. And you almost feel sorry for Jordan, but not completely, still an annoying brat. And 5 minutes in, though, Seth appears in the crowd in street clothes, and hopefully the crowd are going wild for him, and he makes his way down to the ring. Brock is jumping up and down like, come on then, let's do this, let's throw down. Rollins gets in the ring, looks at Lesnar, everyone's really heated, they're just about to brawl, and then boom, Seth hits Jordan. And there's a confusion for a bit, and then the ring announcer goes, the winner of this match is Jason Jordan via DQ. And Brock is furious, and him and Seth just start brawling. And in the spirit of TLC, officials are out to separate them, but it's having no effect. They're going at each other with chairs and other weapons. And the closing visual is Seth doing a frog splash off the ladder onto Brock through the announcer's table. Tables, ladders, and chairs. And Seth poses with the Universal title atop the ladder. Now on Raw the next night, Corbin is outraged because Seth was suspended. He suspended him and he ruined the Raw main event at TLC. He's going to fire him, goddammit. But Angle finally shows some backbone and stands up to Corbin and he says, no, you are not. I don't care what you think. I don't care what Stephanie thinks. Seth is the guy to lead Raw, and that is why I am booking Seth versus Brock for the Universal title at Survivor Series. And in the building weeks, Rollins keeps putting over all the careers that Brock has held down during this really long tenure of the Universal Championship and not being around. Kevin Owens and Finn Balor never got their title rematches that are rightfully theirs. Braun Strowman, Samoa Joe, Roman Reigns, boo. If Brock defended his title the amount he should be, that he would if he respected the belt, then these guys would have more opportunities and they could potentially win the biggest accomplishment that any wrestler can in their career. The next week, Heyman cuts a promo on Raw saying how, yeah, Brock doesn't care, mate. He doesn't care about the fans. He doesn't even care about wrestling. This is just a job that Brock Lesnar happens to absolutely dominate. And he gets paid very well, thank you very much. So he's just going to keep on coming out. He doesn't have to do all this fan service stuff. He doesn't care. Seth comes out, and this is where we start to get the sort of tonal bit of turning everyone's back on Brock and Paul Heyman. So Seth comes out and he says, this man just said that him and Brock Lesnar do not respect you guys. Turn your back on him. We don't respect them either. So hopefully all the audience has fun. They get behind Seth Rollins, the babyface. The whole audience turns their backs on Paul Heyman cutting this promo, as does Seth Rollins. And Heyman's getting irate, doing, no, turn back round, listen to what we've got to say. but they don't. And Rollins gets everyone also to stomp their feet and do burn it down to drown Heyman out. And Heyman just walks off in a huff past Rollins. Now, on the Go Home Raw, it's built up as an in-ring confrontation. You'll have Seth and Kurt Angle on one side and Brock and Paul Heyman on the other, just as a final sign-in segment before Survivor Series. But Brock's no-showed again. It's just Heyman. So Seth gets everyone to turn their backs on Heyman when he talks again in the crowd. And eventually, Kurt Angle turns his back on Heyman too. Heyman, frustrated, walks out backstage. He's walking around through the corridors. And officials, ring crew, other wrestlers, they are all turning their backs on him as he walks through. And then he gets out into the car park and there's Finn Balor, smiling, of course. And Heyman says, hey, I always respected you, Finn. I put you over in that promo. You're one of the most legitimate badass guys, best wrestlers in the world. And Finn's smile just disappears, turns his back on him too. And Paul Heyman, his face changes as well. He goes, that was a bad mistake. Because in the same shot that's been following Heyman through the backstage area with all these people turning their backs on him, a limo turns up in that car park and out gets Brock Lesnar, Universal title in hand. He is pissed. Boom! Knocks Balor in the back of the head. And in that same shot, West Wing style, Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar start to walk back towards the ring, occasionally with Lesnar just clobbering people left and right. Some people are trying to run away, most aren't fast enough. And then it cuts back to the ring. And Seth is getting ready. He's amped up. He knows that Brock's coming for him. Kurt also takes off his jacket. He's ready to throw down. Lesnar's music hits, and loads of officials are walking behind Lesnar to try, just calling him, not actually physically touching him, to come back. Brock walks down to the ringside, and that's finally when the refs stop him, and they're keeping him back. Seth, straight through, lawn dart dive onto all of them. They all go falling. And then loads of wrestlers run down for the big pull-apart thing that they haven't done, admittedly, in a while. And this is sent by Baron Corbin, of course, because he hates Seth. But then Angle starts fighting off some of the referees and officials too. Angle's right in there. He's sick of Lesnar dominating Raw like this. Rollins and Brock are brawling. And then all the wrestlers get too much and they separate Brock and Seth in this big line from just cutting the entrance ramp off from the ring. Seth's in the ring, Brock's outside, loads of people between them. But who else is on the wrong side with Seth? Paul Heyman has found himself in the ring, and he's worried. And Brock Lesnar realises what's going to happen, and he starts to knock down a few referees, but then all of the mid-card just stand up, looking right past him, and turn their backs on Brock, looking into the ring. And Brock just realises he can't really get through all of them, so he just stays there. And Kurt holds down Paul Heyman, and Seth hits a curb stomp on Heyman, and that's your big go home angle for Survivor Series. So, Survivor Series, it's Brock Lesnar without Paul Heyman versus Seth Rollins. It's the main event of the night, and they wrestle a big 20-minute match when the referee is knocked down. And who should appear but Paul Heyman with a neck brace with the Universal title, sliding it to Brock. Brock picks up the title to clobber Seth with, and he whacks him right in the head. Seth is out, but Kurt runs down. This isn't going to happen on his watch. And he starts to wrestle the Universal title out of Brock's hands. And you get those flashbacks of the Brock and Kurt feud of old. And Brock picks up Angle for the F5. But he doesn't get a chance to hit it because Finn Balor shotgun drop kicks Brock in the chest. It sends Angle out to safety. Brock's down, and Finn Balor and Angle roll out to the side. They make sure to grab the title with them. Brock's looking at everyone, what's just happened? And then, who's that walking down to the ring? It's Kevin Owens. It's Braun Strowman. It's Samoa Joe, Chad Gable, AJ Styles. They're all the top wrestlers who've been held down by Brock all over the last 2 years. Even Jason Jordan is down there, and they all start hitting the ring mat. And they lead the chant, burn it down, burn it down. And Brock's kind of looking every which way. He's surrounded by all these people. The whole audience are chanting burn it down with this stomp as well. And Seth rises from the grave after being knocked out by the Universal title shots. And he is also doing the burn it down stomp. And he hits a whatever and then hits the curb stomp. and he wins. New Universal Champion. The locker room lifts Seth up on their shoulders for the celebration. They finally vanquish the Beast.
Well, hot damn, that was Ollie Davis's fantasy booking warfare. That was his pitch. If you want to check out my video, although I'm not sure why you'd bother at this point, click the video below or wherever it is on screen right now and make sure you vote in the poll above either one of our heads or in either one of our videos. We'll collect them all up. But that's fantasy booking warfare. I've been Luke Owen, this has been Ollie Davis, and that was Rambling.